Hello, this is Tommy's Top Picks, and I'm your host for this box opening, John. Today we're opening Tales of Aria, First Edition. I want to warn you before I get into this, I did have some video difficulties. For some reason my camera had issues buffering or something, so I'm actually going to do a bit of a market update voiceover while the video plays in the background. I apologize for this, but sometimes you just have technical difficulties and you gotta roll with it. So let's get started. I love this set. I love the art. I love the look of it, and I'm really excited to get into this. Hopefully I get some spicy pulls and some rares and the like that I'm looking for. I think I'm going to have to build a Briar deck here soon. I just like the idea of a Rune Blade with some of her skills, using some of my other cards. Let's jump into the market update. Interesting news. Unlimited is not unlimited. There's an official announcement that Crew went out of print. Unlimited Crew went out of print, so that's pretty impressive. Everyone was taken aback. It's interesting though, because the news isn't that much news. If you look at the fabtcg.com site, the site with all the official announcements from LSS Studios, you'll see that when Crew Unlimited was announced, they specifically said it would come in 3 waves, with the third wave coming around September 30th. Now we're, middle of October, but they did have it said it was approximate, and with logistics, obviously, if they're printing in Japan or Belgium or wherever, it's got to get around the world. Everyone knows COVID logistics are a nightmare, so a 2-week delay based on what timing they said before is not that shocking. They did claim that there is still some at distributors or getting to distributors, but the rumor is that that has already been allocated and basically sent out to consumers at this point, and there may or may not be any left. So that's about it on Unlimited being Unlimited. It's going to be an interesting ride. The market has obviously already reacted. Boxes were going for approximately $70 a box before this news, and then instantly shot up to almost $200 a box within minutes of the news dropping. It was interesting. I happened to be watching at the time, and it was just really fun time watching the markets bounce around like a maniac as soon as this news hit. Now, it has settled mostly. There's retracement. The current boxes are going for $130, $140, so still a significant increase over the $70 a box. So if you have Crew, you might want to hold on to it. Now the cool thing is that EV has, once again inverted, and we talked about this on the last set, or last market update about, will Unlimited ever invert and give an optionality where it makes sense to crack boxes? Well, we have reached that point. I speculated that there would be something going out of print, but I did not think it would be Crew. I actually thought they'd get rid of WTR and ARC first. I was wrong about that, but I'm happy to see that something got set to out of print, because it really does help the market. So what does this mean? I mean, EV is back in favor of cracking boxes, it looks like, at least for the moment. And you got to take that with a grain of salt, because individual cards are kind of bouncing all over the place as the market tries to figure out what the value is. But we did see a spike from 100 to 150%, and a lot of these have held at least 50% gains. So something like Blood Sheath was once, $47 before the announcement. It's now at about 60. Went as high as 90. So you can kind of see you get some gain. There was a big spike, some gain. I'm not 100% sure the EV is worth it because of the new prices of the boxes and how they're shifting around still, and I don't think anything has settled out to the point where we can determine that for sure, but it's probably pretty close to a break even at a case level. Individual boxes is almost never going to be worth it unless you get really lucky, just because of the odds of getting certain things, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a second. But Gambler Gloves, non-foil was 30. It's now at 50, got as high as 60, 58 or so. Crater Fist, another popular card, was 41. It's now at 75. Got as high as 80, so that one's holding value more. I think that's probably due to its usefulness and just the meta that's coming up with the competitions, etc. Cheyenne, which is a real win, was as low as $60 to $70. It's now at $260. It peaked at 300, but it seems to be holding on to that value, which is interesting because it's one of the two legendaries with the Tunic being the other one, obviously. Tunic is printed in multiple sets, though, so it's a little bit off. And we'll talk about the odds of getting these and kind of like how many are suspected to be total in print for these ones that just came from Crew. But the big win is Arknight Shard. It was as low as about 280 before the announcement, and it last sold at 650, but the current listing, only available listings, are 1600 and above. So where is that going to stand? I don't know. It has not retraced at all. 650 is its peak, so there might be room to grow since the next on market is 1600. Maybe it retraces from that 1600 mark to about 1000. The reason why is because if you think about it, Arknight Shard is probably never going to be reprinted, at least not in this format. Crew was a specific set, the Shard was a specific legendary that goes with the set, and any new sets that reprint cards are probably not going to reprint the one and only legendary. It just doesn't make sense to do so. So it may never be printed again. There's no guarantee of that, obviously, but it's still a fairly rare card. Even if they reprint it, it will be a different, set number. It'll have a different, version, and so it will probably hold some of its value just as a unique early stage card. So this whole change in perspective of unlimited is not really unlimited has really dragged up the market. WTR was around $52. Now it's at $60. ARC was in the low 60s. It's now $70. I think the market is really realizing that unlimited isn't really unlimited forever. It's just as long as there's high demand or high enough demand to make it make sense to do these print runs. And you have to realize they have to tool these manufacturing facilities. They have to set up logistics. There's a time drag and delay based on like COVID shipping, etc. So there's a lot of planning that has to go into any particular print run of a set. And so when it stops making sense, it's got to be cut off. You can't afford to run every set forever. It just doesn't make any sense. There's not enough printers in the world to do that. So these unlimited sets are going to eventually go out of print to some degree. Now, obviously, they can reprint them if the demand for the cards gets too high or something of that nature. We don't really know how LSS plans to deal with that in the future. They've been, as we were talking about last session, they have been very player friendly, and I think that's a good thing, especially with the game starting out healthy, allows people to get into the game. But obviously, you have to support the collector side of it, or the economics stop making sense across the board. You start getting these big box sellers selling it under map. And when that happens, you're actually harming the health of the game because there's no value in this cardboard, right? It just becomes basically garbage that people are trying to dump as fast as possible. And that's what was happening. I mean, we were seeing boxes down as low as $43 a box. I think map is like, I forget the exact number, but it's well above $43. That's sub-distributor level. That means the big stores were completely shouldering out any small shops. And LSS has made a promise to help small shops. So the economics weren't making sense. So this sort of thing was bound to happen. I think the timing was probably good. As we spoke about last time, it was a concerning period economically for the whole LSS and Fab world. But I think this move has really helped things out as far as sparking the economics of it and making it make sense for collectors and shops and the like to essentially carry the product and help promote the game because it's now healthy from a margin standpoint to actually do so. Where before it was questionable. It was difficult, and it was hard to gain margin. So let's dig into the odds of any particular card. Maybe not the odds, just the print numbers, which ties to the odds. So according to LSS, there's one Fable, this is analysis. This is suspected through analysis by various people that have opened a lot of boxes and have tracked the data. So the suspected number for the Fable is 1 per 30 or 40 boxes, which is somewhere between 720 and 960 packs. Now, one Fable for 960 packs, we'll say. In the first edition print of Crew, there was 900,000 packs released in total. This was announced by LSS some time ago, and we know it for a fact. The suspicion, and this is where we start getting to some fuzzy numbers and uncertainty here, is that the Unlimited set was a similar print run. And if you look at the announcement, it kind of makes sense. So say there was 900,000 packs in first edition. The Unlimited print run was 3 waves. They announced the 3 waves and the timing of them. And you figure 300,000 packs per wave, right? To do a replica of the original print. If that's the case, then we're talking 12,500 boxes in total of Unlimited printed. Now we can up these numbers and play with them a little bit, but let's just assume that it's around the same size as the first edition. If that's the case, then we're talking about somewhere between 937 Arknight shards and 1,250 Unlimited in print at all, ever, because they're highly unlikely to reprint it as is. And the reality is that the Crew Unlimited is now out of print. So if there's only 1,250 Arknight shards, then it's no wonder they're selling for 1,600 a piece, because that means only 1,000 or so are in existence and ever will be. Now, is that true? We don't know. There's lots of speculation there. The number of packs in Unlimited, perhaps it was twice as many. Maybe they did 1.8 million, in which case there's twice that number. That's still only around 3,000, less than 3,000 of them. Still a pretty good investment if you ask me. I personally jumped on it. It's kind of funny. I was buying it actually before this announcement dropped. About an hour before, I bought one of each of the shards, and then the library, because I'm enamored. I like the game. I enjoy it. I really want to be part of the collecting space here, and I've been enjoying it. My background's in finance, so I look at these things and I say, hey, this makes sense from a long-term hold perspective. Grab a couple of the really high rarity items, hold on to them, and sell them someday, right? The way I look at it, it was well worth it. So I signed up. I basically bought one of each, just to sit on my shelf and look at and admire, because I do like the way they look. And a bit about the Rudy thing and the art cards in there. That's part of what inspired me. We can talk about that in a minute. But so I got one of each, and I bought my Arknight shard. It was the last one I bought. I bought it at 280 because I thought it was not the most useful card, and it seemed like an odd fit because it's very specific to a class and all the rest, right? So it seemed like the least interesting one. Well, I was wrong about it being the least interesting one, because within an hour, out of print announcement dropped. And sure enough, the person I bought it from at 280 canceled the order and said, I lost it. I don't have it. It's not in my inventory. Sorry. Too bad. Prices at that point had already jumped to $560, $570, something like that. And and so I would have to pay twice as much for it. And I, knowing markets, was wondering if it would retrace, if that was the peak. Like a lot of the cards we talked about earlier, they have a high and then they kind of come back down to sane levels, because you get that kind of rubber band snap of the market's trying to equalize and figure out what things are worth. So I wasn't going to buy into the hype. I figured the price would come down in a day or two, like many of these cards, and it wouldn't be a problem. Well, fast forward now a couple days, the prices have actually only gone up. So I said, okay, bite the bullet. I want one. I want to hold on to it. It's for the long term. I don't care about short-term variations. So if the price does come down, I'm not going to cry over it. It's just going to sit on my shelf at that point anyways, and I'm going to enjoy it as a piece of art. Well, prices continued to climb, I finally bit the bullet and bought in and got one around $600, which is super sad considering I had a 280 already purchased, already charged to my card, supposedly getting ready to ship, but they hadn't officially given me the ship number yet. and then that's out. So it's very unfortunate, but that stuff does happen. You understand how that can happen, and that is how it is. So my cost basis, the Arknight Shard is much higher. I still think it's a great value. Okay, so I paid 600 in the current market listing, and again, take this with a grain of salt because market's still figuring things out. It's 1600. So if I get this one and this doesn't get canceled on me, I'm still already up in the value, and I think there's room to grow. Like I said, there was no retracement. There was no peak in retracement on the Ark. So I think there's room. I think there's definitely room for it to grow, and over the years, there's definitely room for it to grow. So that's why I want to have it anyway. So looks like it will work out work out the same, work out well for me in the end, anyways. But the the reality is I missed my 280 price point. So the other ones are on the way, and I'm sure they're going to spike when they get their out of print messages too. So I will probably make my money back there, no problem. If we continue to go down through the number of different types of cards, doing the same math, so there's one per 240 packs, and this is official from LSS, of the legendaries for the crew set. So that's the Tunic and Shyana, the shapeshifter hero, lady. Pretty cool art. I really actually do like that. It's one I should have picked up but have not. And super sad, especially considering it was $60-$70 and now it's $250 or so. So sad I don't have that. I'll probably get that at some point. I'm not sure when. It might just be one of those happy birthday to me sort of things, or something like that. We'll see. But of that, there are 3,750 of either the Tunic or Shyana based on the odds of picking a legendary and the supposed number of packs of 900,000, which again, we don't know for sure. If that's true, then you divide that number by 2, and that's 1,875 Shyanas in the world, ever. Now that one will probably be reprinted. Maybe. I don't know. It is kind of a special card. Pretty unique for the various sets, but there's a chance it will be reprinted, so you gotta take that into account. And then you do the same math on the 36 Majestics and the numbers per pack and etc. And you get about 6,250 of each of the 36 different Majestics. That's assuming they're evenly distributed, which I don't know if that's true. I assume it's not, because some are higher value than others, so there's at least more demand, more play time with certain Majestics, so they'll get damaged and etc. So from a collector standpoint, we can roughly guess that there's around 6,000 and a quarter of each type of Majestic. So if there's particular ones that draw your eye from the art perspective, are exciting to play with, that sort of thing, or have like a long future in viability in game because they're just such a critical core sort of play style, etc. That might be worth picking up and just holding on to, because there's only going to be a couple grand of those, less than 10,000 in the world ever. Now, again, anything can be reprinted. I'm hoping LSS gives different art treatments and the like, but there's no guarantee, especially at the Majestic level, that that's going to happen. It could just be reprinted in this next set that's about to come out. And that goes to what I want to talk about next is, what are these extension sets going to look like? Are they always going to go out of print first? Maybe that's what's happening, is that it's going out of print because the next set is coming. This next extension set is coming, which is a tie-in to Monarch and Aria. If that's the case, is it going to reprint some of these useful cards from Crew? And maybe that will help balance this out a little bit in the market for the players to allow them to have access to some of these cards. It would be a little odd. Like the Arknight Shard, I just don't see that happening, because they have to have something that's thematic to the other two, right? Or you'd expect. And we're talking about the Library of Soul and the big tree. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but those two are very different than the shards. So to reprint Arknight Shard would make no sense in this set, at least. But things like Gambler's Glove, Blood Sheath, I could see those being reprinted. It's definitely possible. It just depends on kind of what's going on with it. Although, I don't know, because the Blood Knight Sheath is for the Rune Knight, but is that? I guess that wouldn't really make sense because... Oh no, that's right. Chain was a Rune Knight. Yeah, so yeah, you could do that one. Yeah, you could reprint that. So you just got to think about the cards, the usability, the heroes involved in the current sets, and what makes sense as a an upcoming set that's an extension, because a lot of the extension, at least in Crew, was about balancing out the previous heroes for the previous 2 sets. You assume that's going to be the same. I'm sure there's some level of reprinting that needs to happen to help accessibility for certain critical cards. And, you know, we'll just kind of see how it goes. But it's very interesting to watch these market dynamics. Very exciting, and, you know, lots of opportunity here. And I got lucky and picked up some Crew First Edition and some Crew Unlimited. Actually, I got a case that showed up literally the day of this announcement. And so they doubled in value instantly. That was pretty sweet. So, you know, it's a fun market. So this market update wouldn't be complete without talking about the Rudy special. I guess it was a 2-year anniversary. He released a whole video on it. I'll let you watch that if you want to know the background and basics. But the key things to take away from it are supply-demand issues that he brings up, and the general product and what it was. So, full disclosure, I am one of those who bought 2. You know, I am in this for the collecting of it. I do enjoy the markets. I do think they will hold value. They are a special product with a special background, and, you know, I'm a patron of Rudy's. I don't mind the deals he offers and what comes of it. Now, that might be polarizing for some, but, you know, I'm in it to learn about the markets, and he talks about the markets very honestly. I enjoy that. Let's get into the product, though. What was it? So it was LSS 001-P, a question mark product listed on LSS's site for a long time. They have an index of all the cards. This indexed number was there, but what it was not described. It is a celebration of Rudy helping them out in the very beginning. Essentially, LSS tried to get distributors all over the country, all over the globe. Many of them laughed him out of the room, essentially. And this is early 2020, late 2019. Rudy gave him a shot. He introduced the game, put it out to the patrons. This was long before I was a patron, so I'm just hearing this story for the first time. And supported the game right off the bat. It succeeded, and so LSS thought it was a great idea, or really, I guess they really honored the relationship. They liked how much Rudy really believed in them and backed them and helped them. So, to honor that relationship and show that loyalty and, I guess, friendship, they created a card that is a picture of Rudy sitting in a throne with a purple cape on, and it's a ridiculous, non-playable card. But it's funny, it's cute, and it speaks to the history of the game. You know, a little game trying to get started in the world, and Rudy helping them make it. And so that's a piece of the history. That will always be a piece of the history, no matter how far this game goes. And Rudy, being such a divisive character, will always be something talked about. You know, evil Rudy the investor, basement investor, whatever. I think that being part of the history of the game is important to recognize and hold on to as a piece of the history. 20 years from now, people will look at that card and be like, what in the world is this about? It catches the eye. It's curious. It's an interesting story. All these things are great for collectible products, and something you want when you're trying to get some sort of product that will hold value over time, right? A good story. So what is the actual product? It's that card. It's in a secret layer-like box. It's small, but I think secret layer boxes are small. I've actually never bought one. But it looks just like it, you know, shiny font, black box, etc. It comes with 4 art cards, 3 of the shards, hence my interest in buying the actual shard cards. So the fables that were previously done, the Eye, Arc Knight, and the Heart, Fanedale Heart. So those 3 art cards are there. They have a little bit of story text on the back. And then a 4th card that is a kind of preview, sneak preview. It shows a part of what will be the 4th shard. And then a little story about that, which is really odd and interesting and kind of makes me more intrigued about the world building around LSS's product. I haven't really dug into that too much, but there's something going on there. It seems interesting, and that's a great preview and teaser of it, so I'm excited about that part. Now let's get into the math. So he revealed all the numbers after the sale was done. It was a 24-hour sale, shut off exactly 24 hours later, no matter how many sold or if it sold out. He was going to announce that. What ended up happening was a spike in the beginning and a spike at the end. Again, go watch this video if you want to hear about it. The stats end up like this. Around 1,300 sold. 2/3 of the supply went to 450 people and 1/3 to, I forget exactly the number, but basically 70% bought two. And so what that means is that those 450 people control 2/3 of the supply within the entire, market of this particular product. So 900 copies, and you figure most of those people want to hold on to one. So probably 900 copies are off the market, won't be sold. They're for collectors that want to hold on to it, and something around 450 is the entire market. They were sold for $1,000 a piece. They're currently going for somewhere around 1,600. Really depends day to day. I've seen them as high as 2,000. I've seen them as low as 1,200. It's kind of all over the place, as you'd expect with a specialty item with a high ticket price. So I think in the long term, it will increase in value and be a part of the history, and that's why I got it. And I'm just going to hold on to them. I have no intention of selling them. The goal of this, and this is where it gets interesting, was to create controversy. It was intentional. It was engineered by Rudy to do so, and it appears it had the blessing, and this is coming from Rudy, so take it with every grain of salt. It appears it had the blessing of LSS. They wanted more eyes on the sale, on Fab, on the products, on what's going on. And in a way, it was a test of the market, because if there's no emotional reaction to something as absurd as this, then no one cares about your product. But because there was, it shows a lot of people are emotionally invested in the product, and that seems to be a very good sign for the future of the game. As long as there are people complaining and interested and concerned about optics and the health and the blah, 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 the more likely the game is to survive, because it means they have an emotional investment and commitment to the game. And what they think is right and wrong with it. When that stuff disappears, the game itself is dead. When no one cares, you're over. People obviously care. So I see this as a very good sign for the future of LSS and Fab. So that's one of the reasons after this I went and bought the shards, because I saw this market will be here for a while, and there is going to be emotional attachment to the older stuff. So I see that as a very interesting part of the story of LSS and the rise of Fab, and I see it as a very interesting market dynamic and telltale sign of what's to come. So I am excited to be part of this. I will continue to open boxes, collect cards, talk about the market, as long as it continues to be an interesting market to talk about. So again, I'll apologize for the odd video, but let's go ahead and get into the pulls. There's a few errors in the video here too, but we'll just deal with it. Amulet of Lightning was $6.98, pretty nice pull, cold foil. $13.50 for the Pulse of Vaulthaven, $3.80 for Endless Winter, and this is where the video starts messing up a lot. Frost Lock, Rainbow Foil goes for $3.04. Code of Frost is $11.74. Flash Freeze, which is not showing up, but it will show up in a second, is $1.41. Frost Lock, non-foil, is $2.20. It's 99 cents for Ice Quake Foil, so I sleeve that because it might get worth something eventually. Lightning Press is in foil is $3.55. Channel Mountain Heroic is, and that's in foil, is $7.99, and $6.74 for Blink. In total, that's $61.94, so clearly not anywhere close to the value of the box. But like I said, I wanted these for a deck I want to build. I think it's going to be Briar as a Rune Blade, but I also like Lexi. Too many people are playing Oldhim. I don't really want to chase after that. I'll go to an older set if I want to do that. Anyways, so this is it. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment if I missed anything or you noticed anything. I hope this was informative and you learned something. And have a good one.